Hello, everyone. This is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Teen News. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Black Teen News. I'm your host, Christina Barton. Happy International Men's Day today. I'm told that it's International Men's Day, which people were joking around, how could Biden allow Kamala Harris to be, president for International Men's Day, because he did have a surgery, so he was under, so Kamala Harris was president for 83 minutes, something like that. So I thought I would start my show doing jokes about the mooning turning to blood and all kinds of wonky things because she was temporarily the president. But we got our jury verdict today. Kyle Rittenhouse has been acquitted. He is found not guilty on all 5 charges, all 5 counts. The gun charge was already dropped, so that's why it wasn't 6. I'm happy. I'm excited. I'm also a little ticked off too, and we'll get to why. The reactions coming in are so absurd from the left. You could find them humorous if you didn't know that they were so utterly evil in their ideology. Where Joy Reid, Colin Kaepernick, Nicole Hannah-Jones, the ACLU, just writing awful things. So we're going to get into all those things, talk about the case. I did post an article today. I did share it on my social media about things that were really wonky about this case with the proceedings and stuff that the prosecution did. And if he had been found not guilty, there's clear grounds for a mistrial. And really, they could have got a mistrial with prejudice. I think, should have been able to if they pushed it. But then when they did request a mistrial at one point, they didn't even request that, which didn't make a lot of sense to me. But the judge was like, well, let's wait and see what the jury says. And maybe he just had faith in the system, because I would like to think that the judge could look at the evidence and be like, obviously this kid is innocent. Hopefully the people do the right thing. People were concerned because it was taking too long. It took way longer than it ought to have been. I mean, honestly. There were rumors of holdouts, a particular holdout, but I guess everyone obviously came to a certain agreement that he was innocent, that he acted in self-defense, and even if you have any, a little bit of doubt, how could you convict him? But it was pretty plain as day, obvious, and it has been for a while, and anyone, it should be no surprise to anyone what the verdict is, but people want to blame white supremacy, people want to blame an unjust system, etc. So we're going to go over some of these people, like Mayor de Blasio said crazy stuff, the Attorney General said crazy stuff. So we're gonna talk about it. We're going to talk about it, but before we, I see you guys are happy in the comments. Yes, it was justice. It was justice. It's crazy to me that they think this judge had, I think he knew that Kyle was innocent, but I think he gave him a fair trial. I think he did some things that let he got testy with the prosecution at times, which I saw even left-wing lawyers why is the prosecution doing this stuff? Even when they try to introduce stuff that the judge ruled that couldn't be used, they try to worm their way into whoa. How was I supposed to? It's no, you're an experienced attorney. You know that you should get permission before you even reintroduce this idea. So there were a ton of things that he did that were inappropriate, but there was times when he let evidence go in they probably shouldn't have, and he definitely could have ruled a mistrial if he wanted to. So but it worked out for the best, I guess, because the jury stated what was obvious. So before we jump into everything, I do want to thank Brighter Michigan PAC. I am in their studio today. If I say something today that triggers you, or anytime I'm in here, just know that there's no one to complain to. It doesn't work like that. I'm not going to get fired or anything like that. I am my own boss, my own person, so you can't complain to them if you don't like what I say. I'm just using the space, and I do appreciate being able to use a space, but they don't care if I trigger you. But they do good work for getting good candidates out there. And by the way, you need to be concerned with what happens locally. Because a lot of things that happen in Kenosha with this trial, with the DAs, with that town, a lot of local corruption, I think. A lot of local corruption. And I went through a little bit in that article I posted today. I don't know how many of you read it, but we're going to talk about it a little bit today. So you need to make sure that you're paying attention to what kind of people get elected on a local level. This was a local story that obviously made a lot of national news. And you know, of course, when we talk about who's running for Congress, who's going to be a senator, who's going to be the president, those are kind of like more glamorous, sexy sort of stories, I guess. But you need to pay attention to who is your local prosecutor, who's your local police, like whatever thing you can vote for. Even your library board. You need to pay attention to now. You never know when Drag Time Story Hour is going to pop up in the news feed or something. So you need to pay attention to these things locally as well. I mean, this is a show where people apparently are watching from all over the world. I had someone from South Africa was like, I love your show. I'm like, oh gosh, that's interesting. And then someone commented, your country's really messed up. And I'm like, I wish I could disagree right now. I wish I could disagree. But pay attention to these local politics. So Brighter Michigan PAC is someone who likes to help people even beyond, like, there's a lot of big donors and people who give money to people who are running for governor and other stuff. People can obviously, those people get a lot of support, but who are your county commissioners and so on? They look at other races that maybe other people will overlook. So if you're in Michigan, or you don't have to be from Michigan, but FYI, they're good people. So check them out. I appreciate being here. I don't really have a joke today to start off with. But I do have some, we're going to laugh at some people today. At least I'm going to laugh, and you guys can watch me laugh. You can laugh with me. You're allowed to do those things. But before I jump to that, I do want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different articles and content that I have written, including the one I did covering the trial. I hope, Binger, man, I hope he's disbarred. I think there's a good case for that. Other people are writing op-eds and stuff right now about it, but they really did conduct this trial in an egregious sort of manner. It was obviously political from the jump, and it just became more evident as things went on. So you can go to blacktnews.com, check out different articles that I've written, share that stuff around. And if you do like what I do here and you do appreciate what I do, I ask that you would go to the website, go to blacktnews.com/donate, and consider leaving a donation to Black Tea News to help grow the channel, grow the website. If you can, I would appreciate that so much. And make sure that you guys are sharing, that you're liking, that you're subscribing. All my handles are at Black Tea News on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and I think I didn't say YouTube, but it's all at Black Tea News. The only one that is different is Twitter, and that is at True Black Tea. So let's jump into the first thing I want to laugh at. So, bad takes. The Federalist said, who will have the worst takes on the Rittenhouse verdict? And they have a poll here. All said, Joy Reid, Joy Reid, Joy Reid. Oh my gosh. So, I don't know, the choice is kind of hard there, guys. Joy Reid. Now, she's probably not the worst that I've seen, but we have yet to watch her show tonight. So she could probably have some dumb, spicy stuff, coming up. But her actual comment was this. While we're out reacting and processing the Rittenhouse verdict, please spare a thought for the families of Joseph Rosenbaum and Anthony Huber, who are mourning, and for Gage Grosskreutz and Jacob Blake. There is nothing here but tragedy, and these families are in pain. So, I mean, it's, I guess, on her classier side of things, because even if your families if you have people in your family who do unscrupulous things, it's still hard to lose them. Like, I've been to funerals where people haven't been on the up and up, and some ex members invited us. I mean, we kind of barely knew them, so I don't really know why we went, but I don't know, church obligations, I guess. But they're like, oh, they're a good boy, and there were some undercover cops and stuff, because they were into some stuff, and we didn't know how deep it was until people started getting up admonishing the deceased. And man, they had some interesting things to say, like that's my N word, that's my N word. I'll never be able to smoke blunt with them no more, and just it was bizarre. So yeah, people still are attached to those who are gone. So yeah, you can understand the families being upset, but she doesn't care about Kyle and his family. She mocked his tears, his white tears, and then went on a rant about Kavanaugh and the power of not just male white tears, but just white tears in general. So though that is kind for her to consider those families. And Jacob Blake, the cops who shot him, that's been ruled a while ago that was a just incident. And that's where all these riots started. Just a refresher, a woman called the cops because someone broke the restraining order, her ex, and she had filed charges against him because he allegedly digitally raped her. And the police showed up. He had a weapon. The media at first acted like he didn't have a weapon. That would inflame the story. But at that point in time, people had basically learned that they can riot if they want to. So I'm not saying that the narrative from the media didn't make things worse, because it did, obviously. But they'd already built a pretty destructive machine by then. And Kenosha burned, or at least some of it, and the riots broke out. So the media played its role, played its part, but Jacob Blake did survive. So he did survive, but obviously Huber and Rosenbaum are gone. The family of Anthony Huber, if you go on CNN.com, they did write a statement for their son, and they said they weren't in the court room because they couldn't watch the video footage of their son dying again and again and again. And I understand that, but if you read it, it sounds like they didn't actually watch the trial at all. So we are heartbroken and angry that Kyle Rittenhouse was acquitted in his criminal trial for the murder of our son, Anthony Huber. There's no justice for Anthony and Mr. Rittenhouse. Other victims, Joseph Rosenbaum and Gage Grosskreutz. They are assailants, by the way. It's been ruled they are not victims. We did not attend the trial because we could not bear to sit in a courtroom and repeatedly watch videos of our son's murder, and because we have been subjected to many hurtful and nasty comments in the past year. We watched the trial closely, hoping it would bring us closure. That did not happen. Today's verdict means there's no accountability for the person who murdered our son. It sends an unacceptable message that the armed civilians can show up at any town, incite violence, and then use the danger they created to justify shooting people in the street. I understand families being upset, but this is delusional. This is delusional, and it will not help anyone heal to just continuously be delusional about reality. We hope that decent people will join us in forcefully rejecting that message and demanding more of our laws, our officials, and our justice system. Make no mistake, our fight to hold these responsible for Anthony's death accountable continues in full force. Neither Mr. Rittenhouse nor the Kenosha police, who authorized his bloody rampage, will escape justice. Anthony will have his day in court. And it goes on some more. Well, let me read a little bit more, because it does get a little bit crazier. No reasonable person viewing all of the evidence could conclude that Mr. Rittenhouse acted in self-defense. That is crazy. He got acquitted by the jury. And the jury who had reason to be concerned for their safety. I was listening to an interview with Mr. Richards, who was the lawyer for Kyle Rittenhouse, and he said that the amount of threats that everybody got, the judge, the lawyers, of course Kyle and his family got, was crazy. Really scary. He said after he answered his phone and the third threat popped by, he was like, I'm just not answering my phone. So we live in a really crazy time. But the jury still decided in self-defense because the evidence was obvious. And again, living in this delusion, is it going to help the family heal? It's not going to help them heal. In response to racist and violent calls to action from militia members, Mr. Rittenhouse traveled to Kenosha illegally, armed with an assault rifle. He had no affiliation with any sort of racist militia. There's no evidence that he's a white supremacist or anything like that. Again, delusion. He menaced fellow citizens in the street, though he was an open violation of curfew order. Kenosha police encouraged him to act violently. Kenosha police told militia members that they would push peaceful protesters toward the militia so the militia could deal with them. Soon after Mr. Rittenhouse killed Joseph Rosenbaum, the police did nothing. Concerned citizens confronted with a person shooting indiscriminately on the street, definitely false, stepped in to stop the violence. Anthony was shot in the chest trying to disarm Mr. Rittenhouse and stop the shooting spree. Still, the police did nothing. Mr. Rittenhouse continued to shoot, maiming Gage Grosskreutz. The police let Mr. Rittenhouse leave the scene freely. Mr. Rittenhouse came to Kenosha armed to kill. That's definitely not true. Kenosha police encouraged him to act violently, and our son is dead as a result. We are so proud of Anthony, and we love him so much. He is a hero who sacrificed his own life to protect other innocent civilians. We ask you remember Anthony and keep him in your prayers. I'm pretty sure he met his maker. So, delusional. I understand grief, and grief will make you do crazy things. But that is delusion. And propaganda, and the sort of rhetoric that could incite more people to do harm. Now, I will see what happens. I don't think I've heard of people going nuts yet. But again, I low-key don't know if that will be a thing. But on the other hand, it's Christmas season, and some of these people want to go shopping. So who knows? Who knows? We don't know yet. We'll see what happens. But that's pretty remarkable, pretty crazy. But the family is grieving. But again, all these people did have extensive criminal records. Now, it is possible, I don't know what was in his head when he decided to hit Kyle with a skateboard, while Jump Kick Man, who also had a criminal record, who was identified in the prosecution, apparently knew who he was the whole time. But they had to keep referring to him as Jump Kick Man. And he was going to hit him again, and Kyle was like on the ground there, kicking him in the face, and he killed him. So maybe he was trying to disarm someone who he thought was an active shooter. And if Jump Kick Man would have testified, allegedly, this was reported by Fox News. I've known like the rumors about who he was for a few days now, the Jump Kick Man, but I didn't want to say unless it was confirmed, which it seems like it was confirmed who he was. But from sources, he offered to testify for immunity for some of his other charges, and his name is Maurice Freeland. But the prosecution didn't want to go for it. I wonder why. So obviously, he couldn't be cross-examined and so on. And they could have brought him on the stand. They chose not to. They also chose not to bring Zeminski on the stand, who was the first person who fired a shot before Kyle shot Rosenbaum. Some people are saying that Kyle shot first, but that wasn't true. There was another shot that wasn't shot by Kyle, so he hears shooting, so that's another thing setting him off. And that's another piece of misinformation that's going on. People saying that Kyle started the shooting and stuff, and are like ignoring the fact that other people had guns. Like Gage had a gun, pointed it at Kyle. So yeah, all these people had records. They were attacking Kyle, and maybe they thought they were stopping an active shooter, and if they had killed Kyle in their attack, they'd be on trial, I would think. It probably wouldn't be huge national news, and they would probably argue that they were doing it out of protecting everyone in self-defense and so on. And Kyle obviously had a good case for self-defense because they hit him with a skateboard and he was on the ground and they were kicking him in the face. So I can understand families being upset, but he did have a very clear-cut case of self-defense. I hope they can do what they need to do to heal. But like I said, delusion's not going to help anybody. It's just going to, and fanning the flames is only going to make things worse. So that was Joy Reid's take. Now this is straight up crazy and irresponsible right here. This is from the Independent. They're saying Kyle Rittenhouse cleared of murder after shooting dead 2 Black Lives Matter protesters. And by the way, I don't believe that Rosenbaum was there just to be a good Black Lives Matter protester and show solidarity with the black community, as he's saying, shoot me N-word. I don't think that's actually why he was there, since he had just left the mental hospital. He just kind of showed up, like literally just left it, and then just started, arson and whatnot. But look at what this says under it in the little bullet point. Full story: teenager who shot 3 black men with rifle found not guilty on all charges. He shot no black people. He shot. Dropkick Man was black, but he missed him. He missed him. That's Dropkick Man. Maurice Freeland. He missed him. The 2 men who died were white. So, guys, do you think that's an honest mistake? How could you make such a mistake? How could you do this? How could you make such a mistake? And you know what? I haven't worked for a newspaper before, but I did work in a comms department at the Michigan Republican Party. And we couldn't just post things. We couldn't just post things up. They had to go through a process. If I did something, I'd run ideas by my bosses usually before I work on them, and sometimes be like, oh, by the way, I created this masterpiece. But usually when I would make something, before I could post it, I would have to go through the chain, and all these people would have to sign off on it. I don't think one person made that bullet point, was like, and just posted it like that, and then nobody caught it. Nobody caught it before they put it up. Now maybe it's a mistake, and I'm gonna have to go and see if that is still up there. But that is a heck of a thing. That is a heck of a thing to get wrong. And by the way, even to just frame it as he killed 2 Black Lives Matter protesters, obviously they're putting it in there. Well, first of all, they were rioters. They were clearly doing illegal activity. They were not there to show black solidarity. So just people keep saying they're Black Lives Matter protesters. They're fiery but peaceful protesters. Is that what this is still? We're still up on about that. So even framing it that way, you're trying to incite people, I think. Inflame people and incite them. I think so. Oh gosh, I hope Kyle just sues everybody. Everybody he possibly can. Oh my gosh, I hope he does. And I hope he can. And people were already willing to give to his case. People are ready to give. But this should be something they submit. But now people can make corrections and so on. But it seems like they're trying to cause trouble. They're trying to cause trouble, I think. Here's Gavin Newsom. America today, you can break the law, carry around weapons built for a military, shoot and kill people, and get away with it. He obviously in Chicago, apparently you can get away with that a lot. But pretty sure we just went through a trial. Pretty sure he had his due process, and he was found innocent. You cannot just get away with it. And this kid, it cost him a lot. It obviously cost him a lot. I don't know if you guys saw the video when they announced it. I'm sure you guys probably did, but I'll play it in a little bit. We got Gavin Newsom, the tyrannical Gavin Newsom, who I'm sorry, California, that you still have to deal with them, but I guess you've already too far gone and crazy anyway, so you get what you get. But that is crazy. That's the message we've just sent to armed vigilantes across the nation. Kyle was not a vigilante. He was not a vigilante. For people to keep calling him that, it's dishonest. I'm not surprised that Newsom is dishonest, though. That's just how he is. Here's the ACLU of Maryland. Dangerous, disgusting, unacceptable, white supremacy in Rittenhouse verdict. Oh, I guess y'all not standing up for self-defense anymore, huh? It's just all white supremacy. Couldn't have been that the evidence was there to exonerate him. Here's Tulsi Gabbard. This is a breath of fresh air. The jury got it right, finding Rittenhouse not guilty on all charges. The fact that the charges were brought before any serious investigation is evidence that the government was motivated by politics, which itself should be considered criminal. She is not wrong. She's not wrong, and she's been saying this for a few days now, and I wonder what Tulsi's, game is. I wonder what Tulsi's game is. You guys think she's gonna, leave the Democrat Party and try to, run for another big boy position or big girl position? I'm still, floored that the Democrats didn't, latch on to her, man. First time I, really saw Tulsi, she's on, Tucker Carlson and stuff, and I'm like, she's young, she's pretty, she has that cool rogue hair, she served, and she did have more left-wing views, still some extreme views, but for some reason people weren't really correlating that, and her views weren't as absurd as other people. So, and she's saying a lot of things recently that make a lot of sense. So, I don't know what Tulsi's big play is ultimately going to be. I loved that she, struck down Kamala Harris during the debate stage, but they just hated Tulsi Gabbard. With the way they hate her, it makes, I don't know, she seems like cool people, but thank you, Tulsi, for being reasonable in this field of crazy people. Here's Colin Kaepernick. We just witnessed a system built on white supremacy validate the terroristic acts of a white supremacist. This only further validates the need to abolish our current system. White supremacy cannot be reformed. So, just a little FYI, anyone who ever supported Colin Kaepernick, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. You guys are clowns. You guys are clowns! You guys are clowns! Oh my gosh, you guys are clowns. I always hated the national anthem kneeling anyway. I hated that. And people are like, well, he's just trying to stand up for people who were killed, brutalized by the police. No, he was a moron. He's a moron. It's not cool to wear socks with cops as pigs on them. You're obviously trying to make a statement in that regard. And then I remember Stephen A. Smith, who said some crazy stuff recently with the vaccination stuff. But man, when he lit into Colin Kaepernick after he found out Cap didn't vote, he's like, I don't want to hear nothing else about this person. He's a clown. And if you're going to be so concerned about police reform, you need to pay attention to your local politics and at least vote. If you're not even concerned about your local politics, but you're up here, justice, reform, blah, 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 you're a joke. But did you guys know he has, on this Netflix special, he compared the NFL draft to being auctioned off as slaves? How is he not utterly canceled? I know we don't do that. I mean, he's already been rejected in my heart and mind anyway. But I'm like, if someone else decided to make a comparison like that, people get mad when I compare abortion to slavery. Like, oh, how dare you? I'm like, well, did you dehumanize an individual so you could exercise your privilege over them and ignore their rights? So they even use some of the same darn arguments. But that's going off on another tangent. But people get mad when you make that comparison. But this man they're millionaires. This man's a millionaire. And he compared that to a slave auction. So he said, this is just proof that we need to tear down the system. He said, this is proof that we need to tear down the system. Kyle is not a white supremacist. He killed no black people. Those people were not there because they care about black people so much. They were there to loot, riot, and act out their deepest, darkest impulses because other people could get away with it and they felt that they had the cover to do so too. It is no coincidence that Kyle, everyone who attacked Kyle was a criminal. That is the caliber of people who were out there. I'm not saying everybody, but if you were doing criminal acts, yeah, you probably have a history or you're, thinking about going in that business. So, when these people talk about CRT and all these black issues, and like they gotta tear down the system worked this time. It took a couple days, but it worked. It should have never been up at all because there was enough evidence, and it was obviously political theater. But the jury was able to say this kid is innocent on all 5 counts after they also threw out the gun charge because it was not illegal for him to possess a firearm. And people are still lying about it right now. People are still lying about this. So these people who want all this social justice, they see the system that actually worked, objectively worked, if you care about the facts at all. They say this is a sign. They don't want to, they just want to tear down everything because they're racist, anarchist, communist fools. Like, that's what it is. That's what it is. Here's Nicole Hannah-Jones. He carried a gun. Ooh. He could not legally have illegally across state lines and killed 2 people. But sure, y'all believe in law and order. This is the woman who was like the head of the 1619 Project. If this broad can't even get the facts right today, what makes you think she's right about 1619? She doesn't even care about the facts right now as they're reported on TV. We're just in the trial. Just blatantly lying. She could at least say some white supremacist kind of crap like Kaepernick, but she's like literally lying about the facts of the case. He legally could obtain that gun. He did not bring the gun across state lines. It never left Wisconsin. Yes, I believe in law and order. A system that these people want to tear down. A system that these people are like, oh, it's just a offshoot from slave catchers. We need to tear the whole thing down. That's and her and like Joy Reid, they'll say this is why we need critical race theory. So you can learn about how evil the system is, how evil white America is, and why it could possibly acquit Kyle Rittenhouse. And we need to tear down all the systems and stuff until they rebuild their better world, which will be not good at all. So these are the people who are champions of racial justice. Don't let these morons guilt you out of anything. Don't, when they call you a racist, just roll your eyes and keep it moving. And you know what? Activate someone else in politics. Tell them, to get rid of New York Times and subscribe to something else like Black Teen News. You find a way to make these people utterly irrelevant. I mean, just relevant enough for us to laugh at them. But it's crazy that she could push something like the 1619 Project that was so inaccurate. They give each other Pulitzer Prizes so they could find a way to incorporate all that nonsense into a curriculum. And you better watch out because people are trying to put it in your kids' schools. People are absolutely trying to put it into kids' schools. So that was her reaction. Here's the Attorney General of New York. This is a dark day for our justice system. Ooh. As a lawyer, I respect jury verdicts. As a lawyer, you sound like a fool who didn't look at the facts. But this is yet another reminder that our system needs to be uprooted and reformed. How? Why? Why? The facts backed Kyle from the get-go. Y'all probably get no justice in New York, do ya? They'll let a criminal out in a hot second so they can go and commit crime. Do y'all look at the people who do them Asian hate crimes? Normally... First of all, they tried to say that Trump was responsible for the uptick in Asian hate crimes. First of all, you look at the demographics of who's committing them. Those are not Trump voters. I can tell you that. And then usually it'll be a story about someone who was. It'll be a story about someone who was let out of prison early or something to that regard, or they didn't properly prosecute and whatnot. So. New York, of all, they got problems. They got problems. As a matter of fact, they had to get rid of Cuomo And he clearly had the scandal with a nursing home, which, granted, she jumped on eventually, probably for political gain. But they had to get him out via the sexual assault scandal. Probably because they didn't want to have to draw more attention to the nursing home scandal. But that's why he officially left. That's why he officially left. And man, the new governor in New York, hot mess. Hot mess. She's the one who said that there's no reason to have a religious exemption for the vaccines because she's, I don't know, talked to people and they've all said there's none. It's like, oh, I'm so glad you talked to a handful of religious leaders and you just decided that every single church in America, or at least in New York, shouldn't be able to say, hey, I don't want, these vaccines that had aborted fetal tissue that you guys tested to make it. I'm not cool with that. And there's other stuff wrong with her. But New York, California, all these places are doomed. I shouldn't say doomed, but people need to wake up and fight back. People need to wake up and fight back. Here's my last crazy one. Last crazy reaction that I got. I'm sure there's more building, but I only had so much time before I had with you guys. Cori Bush, the judge, the jury, the defendant. Oh, it's white supremacy in action. This system isn't built to hold white supremacists accountable. It's why black and brown folks are brutalized and put in cages while white supremacist murderers walk free. I'm hurt. I'm angry. I'm heartbroken. May I remind you that Cori Bush was one of the defund the police people, while she herself pays a lot of money for private security. And while she was, and we did it, I mentioned this on my show one time, and when she had an interview and they mentioned this, and she's like, do you want me to die? She's like, my life is valuable. Exactly. That's why people should be armed, because their lives are valuable and it's worth protecting, and you have the right to protect yourself. You cannot always rely on someone else. You have the Second Amendment. Exercise it. Practice it. Get a gun, learn how to shoot it, use it. Take care of yourself. But it's okay if she has armed security that she could pay for, but it's not cool for people to have people help them take care of their property. Again, Kyle Rittenhouse is not a white supremacist. Lies after lies after lies. I hope they're collecting all these things for defamation. I hope so. I absolutely hope so. Oh my God. It's so irresponsible. The Democrats, and I think maybe there was a few Republicans too who crossed over maybe, but it was basically a party line vote. They voted to censure a Republican from Arizona because he made an anime sort of campaign thing with Attack on Titan. The anime Attack on Titan. It's pretty wild. That's one anime I haven't watched, but my sister watched it, so I don't know a lot of details about it, but there are these big Titan monsters that they fight, and that's about all I can tell you, I guess. And so anyway, he put his face and other people's faces on the anime characters, and he was taking out Biden and taking out AOC, and it's pretty wild. But they voted to censure him, and kick him off committees. And McCarthy said when they take control, they'll get them back and stuff. But it's amazing the sort of stuff that they will if they would have just been oh, it's irresponsible. Dude, why'd you do that? And instead of acting I don't know, they're about to arm and take over the nation or something, do another insurrection or uprising. Democrats just acted a fool again. But why don't we hold other people accountable at all at the crazy stuff that they do? You had the I'm drawing a blank on his name, the guy from California who was sleeping with the Chinese spy. Or Ilhan Omar says crazy stuff. And Cori Bush does crazy stuff all the time too. But this is totally irresponsible. It's defamation. It's again, he's not a white supremacist, but they're saying the system is wrong. The system is wrong. The system is wrong. And we've had this conversation before about critical race theory and how they want to tear down systems, how it's all rooted in Marxism and stuff, and particularly even with the Kyle case and how they ignore intent and stuff. But Oh, I guess let me take it back up. So African American History Museum put out this graphic some time ago. They took it down because there's so much backlash, but they talked about white culture and whiteness in the United States of America. And one of the and they had a couple things on here. This if you haven't seen it, just Google whiteness in America infographic. You will find this. I would always have this on me in your phones if you can. It is such a great example of the crazy world that we live in and the sort of stuff that they want to push. But when you get to, I mean, they say crazy stuff about religion, family, and so on, but they get to the law and the idea of whiteness is in our justice system. It's based on English common law, that you protect property and your entitlements, and that intent matters. So all those things are ideas of whiteness. So when these people, these racial justice, we need critical race theory, blah, 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 people talk about we need to tear down the systems, think about what they mean. Think about, like, everything that we hold dear that holds our society together, they want to tear it down. Because they're communists! They're communists! And it's why black and brown folks are brutalized and put in cages while white supremacist murderers walk free. First of all, you need to talk to the president and get your border situation under control, because I'm pretty sure you guys are the ones putting brown people in cages right now, just like Biden and Obama was doing back in the day. So maybe you guys need to check yourself before you want to talk about everybody else. But again, this case is not racial. It is really not racial. Kyle's a white guy. Allegedly, he got not arrested, but he had a ticket, and in the file they said he was Hispanic. I don't know if he's got a little something in him or not, because I can't find anything else other than that. But some people think he's Hispanic, but for all intents and purposes, we know that one white guy killed two other white guys. That is what we know. Regardless of what the Independent put out today, it's still white on white crime. It's not even crime. He's acquitted. He's acquitted. So that's my last crazy thing. Cori Bush, Cori Bush was one of the people who were like coming up on the McCloskeys. Remember the pictures of the couple with the gun on their property, and then they got like charged, but I think their stuff got thrown out. She was among one of those people, and at that point in time, it was pretty much a shoo-in that she was going to go to Congress. So she is a crazy congressperson. And I know what to say. We got some crazy people in this world. So I want to watch, show you guys, if you have not seen, when Kyle was read the verdict. And the emotion on this kid, it just broke my heart.
State of Wisconsin versus Kyle Rittenhouse. As to the first count of the information, Joseph Rosenbaum. We, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty. As to the second count of the information, Richard McGinnis, we, the jury, find defendant Kyle H. Rittenhouse not guilty. As to the third count of the information, unknown male, we, the jury, find the defendant Kyle H. Rittenhouse not guilty. As to the fourth count of the information, Anthony Huber, we, the jury, find the defendant Kyle H. Rittenhouse not guilty. As to the fifth count of the information, Gage Grosskreutz, we, the jury, find the defendant Kyle H. Rittenhouse not guilty.
He just collapsed. And when I saw, I got a text. I think I was working on, I had posted my article about the trial stuff, and I was, I guess preparing some other stuff, and I got a text that said the verdict is in. I'm just like, oh my gosh. So I'm like Googling, I'm looking at Twitter and other stuff, see notifications, and lo and behold, they're calling the jury back in. So I find a stream to watch it, and my heart was racing. I'm sure a lot of your hearts were racing when they read it, and when they, he got to like all of them not guilty, I blurted out a yell of excitement. But then just to see him weep like that, the quiver in his body, and then just collapse, overwhelmed. I was so happy for him, but I was angry. I was angry that so many people tried to take his life from him, because it hits, you can see it on his face, just the relief that maybe he can get some of his life back. He'll have to move away from Kenosha. That's what his lawyer said. They're probably going to move because it's too dangerous. Too dangerous. He's probably going to have to leave and go elsewhere. And he'll try to pick up the pieces of his life. It's obviously great that he won't have to spend it in jail. But the year he's had, when he should not have been charged, when it was always clear it was self-defense. He set his bail super high, and you had the current president of the United States alleging that he was some kind of white supremacist militia dude, which I'll play a clip of that. You had the media lying about him nonstop. You have the people lying about him today, with all the facts being out there, the case being over. It was 2 weeks, and people are still lying about the details blatantly. And I don't think it. How can it be because you don't know? Some people don't know, and they're just regurgitating things that they heard. But there's some people who obviously I showed you guys people who are lawyers, people who work at news organizations. There's no reason to get so much of this stuff wrong, other than they're doing it on purpose to inflame, or they don't care to know the facts. They're so devoted to their narrative. Who cares about facts when you got a narrative to push? So the fact that so many people tried to ruin this kid for no reason, he did not deserve all this. And you could say, well, he shouldn't have been there. Though none of this should have happened. None of this should have happened. And the reality of the situation is, I think if more people would have just stood up and say, we're not going to allow this to happen, whether it was police officers or communities coming together and just shutting something like, no, you're not about to do this here. I think Kyle shouldn't have had to stand alone. And he wasn't literally alone. There was other people there who tried to protect car source, in other parts, I guess. And he ended up getting separated, and the rest is history. But there were parts of the country where, like, Black Lives Matter people would show up and they're like, you gotta go. You can't do this here. They stopped in certain places. They stopped that stuff here in Michigan. That's one reason why Chief Craig, who is the front runner, I'm just gonna be honest, I do like some other people in the race, but he's the front runner right now, and that is his stump speech that Detroit did not burn. That was his intro video. That is his stump speech, and it'll continue to be. People remember what happened. Not everyone just forgot. Not everyone just forgot. And there's a lot of people who never saw. I mean, there's only so much that the news will show you. They were gaslighting everyone, pretending like it didn't exist. Or if it did, it was just small. But there was other people like me when that stuff would happen, and I'm watching video after video after video of people releasing stuff on their phones, stuff they took. And some of these reporters who were there, who testified at the trial, thank God that they were there on the ground, but they had more guts than these mainstream media people. And if we were living a different age when we didn't all have cell phones and didn't have access to social media, can you imagine how different this trial would maybe be, at least in our eyes? How would we get this information if they continued to have the monopoly that they had in the past? And people are still going to try to keep a monopoly on this stuff too. They'll try to keep restricting. We have to keep fighting back. And if you like what I do here at Black Tea News, please consider going to blacktnews.com and leaving a donation. Because these other big platforms and stuff that you like, they started off, a few people at a time. So if you want to see Black Tea News get a little bigger and you want to help support it on the ground, you do that. I'm asking. But we have to fight against this narrative because there is a bigger goal here, and I've talked about this past couple days. The goal is to destroy America. So many people were concerned about the Second Amendment with this case because he clearly had self-defense, and the prosecution was arguing that just the mere fact that he had the gun was provocation. And that's what a lot of people had in their minds. How dare he show up with that gun? I showed you people's commentary. He showed up with the gun. I mean, even beyond people lying about taking the gun across state lines, people are mad that he brought the gun. My sentiment is, knowing all the crying and crazy people are there, why wouldn't you have a gun? Period. Because you never know when a serial child rapist might come on the attack for you. And by the way, Rosenbaum announced earlier that if he caught Kyle Rittenhouse alone, he would kill him. This man who just left the mental hospital, who was a serial rapist from boys 5 to 11, I think were the ages. So, if you can carry, I would say you need to carry, honestly. Honestly. So, let's flash back a little bit, and we got to make these people pay it some sort of way, whether it's a lot of people getting sued or at least kicked out of office. I mean, I obviously don't think Biden will run again in 2024, but I just, so many of these people just need to be blown out completely of like any sort of office. And I mean blown out like vote totals. Just want to make that clear. But let's flash back when the media was pressing President Trump when all this happened, and they were upset because they said Trump was defending Kyle Rittenhouse, who, by the way, now is been proven innocent.
Go ahead, please. Yeah, go ahead, please.
It was a supporter of yours, Mr. President.
Are you going to
condemn the It was a supporter of yours, Mr. President, who killed someone that is accused of killing two people. It's a supporter of yours.
Saying, are you going to condemn the actions of vigilantes like Kyle Rittenhouse?
We're looking at all of it. That was an interesting situation. You saw the same tape as I saw. And he was trying to get away from them, I guess, it looks like. And he fell. And then they very violently attacked him. And it was something that we're looking at right now, and it's under investigation. But I guess he was in very big trouble. He would have been. He probably would have been killed. But it's under investigation.
Do you think private citizens should be taking guns?
I'd like to see law enforcement take care of everything. I think everything should be taken care of, law enforcement. But again, we have to give our cops back, our police back, their dignity, the respect. They're very talented people. They're strong.
Yeah, so of course it's more ideal when you have the police there who are going to handle things, but obviously they couldn't handle it, and I don't know what all the politics is of why the mayor of Kenosha, who, I don't know, it seems like there's a lot of corruption there. In that city, and maybe they wanted to turn the focus toward Kyle and say, hey, you don't have to look at me who let all this happen or all the failures of government. We can just look at this white supremacist kid who shouldn't have been there in the first place. So we had a president who said we'd rather have police do it, but we got to wait for the facts of the case. And he said it looked like they probably would have killed him. And Trump wasn't wrong. Trump wasn't wrong. I guess I won't play it today, but I played this yesterday and I think 2 days before. Some of the videos of some of the things that they did to the rioters. I mean, to people who was just trying to save their businesses. They were mad that Kyle was putting out fires and it was trying to ruin their riot. That's why they're mad. That's why they're upset. That was a provocation, not him having a gun. Other people had guns. But they knew that he was trying to, in some regard, keep law and order. And was Kyle kind of a cop wannabe? Well, he was like a wannabe firefighter, wannabe cop, I guess. His lawyer, I believe, said that he wanted to be a nurse after all this. And if that's his dream, I hope Kyle can accomplish that. And that's not totally, utterly ruined for him. Because the kid deserves to have his life back. He really deserves to have his life back. He did nothing wrong. The only thing that I said that I think he did wrong was don't be about all the kinds of places and not talking to your mama. Please talk to your mama. And his mom probably would have said, boy, you better get home. And none of this probably would have happened. But my family, I'm 32 years old. We always stay in touch and keep everyone in the loop of what we're doing. So there's no way my mama would have not known where I was going, or my dad. So that's my bone to pick with him. Otherwise, he was protecting that property, And then the prosecution, which I will mention in a little bit, they brought on the brothers to the stand of the car source lie, and they lied. They lied on the stand about Kyle having permission to be there. And that was a heck of a thing to lie about. But after they lied, people started saying, see, Kyle didn't even have permission to be there. Knowing good and well that Kyle had permission. There's photos of them with the guys with the guns. And they're like, well, we just thought it was interesting. We've never seen anything like it, so we wanted a picture. No, you guys, there's video out there of them being with them at the car source lot. And Kyle said they drove them to lot 3, I think it was. So it was a heck of a thing to lie about. But the prosecution still let them come on the stand and lie. I wonder if any of these people who lied on the stand are going to face any sort of perjury charges. But why would they? The prosecution is trash. The prosecution is trash. So Trump had a good response, and people were like, oh my gosh, Trump is defending this white supremacist. Kyle's not a white supremacist, and he was innocent. Here's Joe Biden back then.
Well, look, I don't know enough to know whether that 17-year-old kid exactly what he did, but allegedly he's part of a militia coming out of the state of Illinois. Have you ever heard this president say one negative thing about white supremacists? Have you ever heard it? That's the reason I got back in this race, because what happened in Charlottesville. People coming out of the woods carrying torches, their veins bulging.
One lie after another. Just one lie after another. So this wasn't accurate. Kyle was not part of some kind of militia going there to start trouble. Wasn't true. Not a white supremacist. But he shipped from Kyle. And if you don't know, Joe Biden did use an image of Kyle in his campaign video. In one of his campaign videos, calling him, when he's talking about white supremacy and Trump basically being the leader of all the evils and racism in the world in America. But he used an image of Kyle, like right when I was talking about white supremacy. So, gosh, I hope he pays for that. I hope somebody pays for that. But he mentioned Kyle to pivot to bash Trump. And yes, Trump has condemned white supremacy a lot, including the people who were there, who were neo-Nazis at Charlottesville. Literally did that in the video where it's called the Very Fine People hoax. If you haven't heard about it, still a thing. Still a thing. It's a hoax. It's always been a hoax. People still believe it, though. It's called the Fine People hoax. You can look it up. So, one lie after another. And then he always robotically talked about the veins bulging. It's just crazy. So Jen Psaki was asked about, did he have any comment? Because Kyle's mom said something, and she's like, well, we're not going to comment on the trial. And I haven't seen if Peter Ducey, because that's who asked the question, if he'll probably ask another one since the trial's over, what her opinion might be. But Joe Biden was asked about it today, and he's got more sense than these Cori Bush and other people. At least I'll give him that.
Well, look, I stand by what the jury has concluded. Jury system works, and we have to abide by it.
Mr. President, what is the state of your health, sir? What is the state of your health after this exam today?
Good. They're going to release all the detail.
So if you couldn't hear clearly, he said respect the jury. And so he's got more sense than a lot of these other people like Cori Bush and Letitia Wright and other people. He's got more sense than them. I mean, he's a lying dog-faced pony soldier, but he's still got more sense than them. So I don't know if any other big questions will come, and I don't know what kind of legal ramifications there will be. They did ask Mr. Richards, the lawyer of Rittenhouse, about that when they were doing like the Q&A after the trial, after the verdict was read, and he doesn't know what Kyle would do in that front right now, at least from what I heard. But he does criminal cases. He doesn't do civil stuff, and that would be civil. Now, I haven't read Nicholas Sandmann wrote an op-ed for Kyle a few days ago, and I haven't had the chance to read it, but I'll have to read it. Basically saying you're not alone in this, and I guess he knows the pressure of like the media doing all this kind of crazy stuff, and of course he sued. It's major networks, and they ended up settling. I'm not sure what the number. I think people think the number is larger than what he actually got, but he did sue them, and people he did get paid. He did get a payday, and there's people who've started setting up funds to help people sue these news organizations when they lie on people, because that's really the only thing they care about at the end of the day is going to be money. I mean, they care about their narrative, and I actually do think people are getting to a place where they're so crazy that they care about their narrative more than money. But we will test and we will see. And if the media comes against you and they slander you in some kind of way, or I guess printed would be libel, you should sue them if you can. And sometimes it's a hard road, but apparently there's more people who are willing to help you combat them. And we should combat them, because if that's the only way that they're going to learn, and a lot of these places are bleeding for money, they're really upset with publications like Substack, that is an online hub of like people who write different articles, and you can subscribe to people's individual Substacks and see their different articles. And there are some that you can pay behind, some you could just read if they don't have it behind a paywall, and then if you subscribe to their Substack, then you can look at their content. So Barry Weiss, who was with the New York Times, she ended up leaving, and she was bullied. They hated her. She's not right wing, but they hated Barry Weiss, and she left, and she's doing very well on Substack. And other people are doing well on Substack, and they resent that these people can leave and do their own thing and succeed. They really do. So we got to keep making them angry. We got to keep making them totally bonkers, insane with rage, because we can find out ways to get our own information, to verify facts, and to not spread their misinformation. This misinformation that Biden spread, that Joy Reid spread, that CNN spread, that they're still spreading right now. If you guys find any really spicy, interesting, bad takes, you can feel free to send them to me on social media, at me on, at True Black Tea. Post them under the comments in like Facebook and stuff. If you see any like meltdowns that are worth having, maybe we'll have to make a collage and just laugh all together. I am really happy for Kyle. I really am. But again, my anger has died down for like the media and stuff. But like I said, when I first saw the verdict I was happy. I like audibly like yelled in excitement. But then just as his emotions swept over him, I was just so angry at the people who lied. As a matter of fact, when I got in the studio, I'm like, I gotta prep, I gotta do all this stuff. And I had posted a TikTok video, and I posted on my Facebook, so maybe you guys have already seen it. And then someone replied to it, an account that has 1.5 million, I think it's maybe 1.2 million followers. People are pretty impressed with my account, and I have 64,000. This person has 1.2 million. I don't know how long they've been on TikTok. I've been on it for a few months. Since February, into February. And they just laughed at my video and said, they lying or he committed crimes. And so I did a reply to her video. I'm just like, what are you talking about? I'm like, how can you guys just continue to lie about this? And so I watched one of her videos talking about it, and she's like, oh, but he was allowed to be, if the protest was there, he could be there. Like, he was 17. Like, that was their whole argument. He was 17 and he shouldn't have been there. And you know what? I think when people mention that, like in an angry sort of he shouldn't have been there way, I don't think to me it doesn't come off as sincere at all. Like, you should, the kind, if you have the attitude, yeah, he shouldn't have been there, in a, gosh, I can't believe society has brought us to this sort of way, that's one thing. But people mentioning that he's 17, it just kind of sounds like you're grasping at a reason to hate this kid. Because if you really feel that he's that young, then why do you want the rest of his whole life to be thrown away and with life in prison, even knowing that he defended himself? So people who say he's 17, if you're really that pressed about him being a minor, which, by the way, we send military to high schools to recruit men his age. He's 18 now. He's a grown man now. Been through a lot. And even men who we send 18 to other countries to fight, they see stuff and it wrecks them, and they're maybe in a lot of regard too young to do that. But I've seen people make the point, like, if 17-year-olds with guns didn't, if we couldn't rely on them, we wouldn't have a country, right? We would all be British right now. And I'm not saying that all kids should get up and be armed and stuff like that, but it was legal for him to carry that. And I don't think everyone probably knew that he was 17. But there should have been other people in the community that would not allow things to get that bad. You shouldn't have had a Kyle Rittenhouse do what he did. That's the real tragedy. That's the real tragedy. Now, I don't know how many other Good Samaritan sort of things that he will do, because again, he went there to protect Car Source, and they lied on the stand about having permission to be there, knowing good and well that they took pictures with them, that they drove him over there. Why would you lie about that? And people are calling him a white supremacist. The people who were the owners of the car shop, they were minorities. Brown people. So please tell me how this kid was a white supremacist. His life got ruined because he showed up at people's places of color to protect their property, protect their business. And then the thanks he gets is they lie on the stand with no benefit about knowing him, about him having permission. And I say no benefit because it was obviously false and obviously easy to prove that it was false. And the prosecutor had enough nerve to have them on the stand lying about the whole thing. So that's one of the things I mentioned in my article about the crazy things in this trial that just didn't make any, that were just shady. There were so many shady things. I'm going to run through a couple of them, but you guys should read the article. So one, it should never gone to trial. There was ample evidence with videos, people taking with camera phones and stuff. Maybe we didn't have like other drone footage and stuff. Obviously it existed, but we didn't become aware to a lot of this stuff until recently. But it was always aware, and any prosecutor with their weight in gold or whatever phrase you want to use should have known that this was a loser. As a matter of fact, there's a rumor that the DA knew that it was not going to be winnable, so they passed it along to Banger and Cross, who are the assistant DAs, and they took the case. They should have been seeking to find the truth, seeking to find justice. Wait, time out. I just want to mention that a lot of people, like Nicole Hannah-Jones, and Colin Kaepernick, and Cori Bush, and all these other people, a lot of people talk about justice, but they do not care about justice. They don't care about justice. It would not have been justice to sentence this kid to go to prison for the rest of his life. That's not justice. And I think it's crazy that all this is going on at the same time that Kim Kardashian and other people are trying to get, I think he was granted clemency for a man who killed, essentially they're protecting him because he's black. They didn't want him to be executed. And the family were the witnesses to this man killing their father in front of them. They have DNA evidence, all kinds of stuff. But people are like, he's innocent. And maybe you feel that way, but it's just a crazy contrast to me that people are like so gung-ho about this guy, and there's so much evidence that Kyle is innocent. And they don't care. That they think he was 17 is good reason enough that he should go to jail? Or that you should be mad at him? Yeah, he was 17, and a serial child rapist was chasing him and trying to take his gun and kill him. Threatened to kill him before. Are you guys kidding me? So when it shouldn't have gone to trial. It shouldn't have gone to trial. And the fact that they had to rely on so many dumb things. At one point, they asked him, did he play Call of Duty? I mean, there were so many crazy things about this trial that they just had no good arguments at all. So it really shouldn't have gone to trial. And after Gage admitted that once Kyle didn't aim at him, didn't shoot until he aimed his gun, that it should have been over. It really, really should have been over. I'm trying to see if I still have that clip up prepared. Oh yeah, I do. If you haven't seen this.
It wasn't until you pointed your gun at him, advanced on him with your gun, now your hands down, pointed at him, that he fired, right?
Correct.
Oh shit! That's it.
That's it.
Directed
That's
verdict. Directed verdict on all the murder charges. Kyle knows.
Yeah.
Directed verdict on the murder charges.
He just exhaled. Kyle just, oh, he looks like he's gonna cry.
How do you not acquit after that?
Look at Bigger. Look at Bigger.
You
Look
had-
at Big Boy.
Oh,
man.
big boy! Oh!
By the way, people people are calling Cross. That's the bigger attorney. They're calling him Lunchbox. They even got it to trend for a little while on Twitter. I think Jack Posobiec maybe started that. Oh my gosh. So people are calling him Lunchbox. Like, that's how officially people were referring to him as. Yeah, but when that happened, they were literally face palming. Because and the judge, who people say had thrown it in for Kyle, was so for Kyle. The trial kept going. The trial kept going. All the way to the end, all the way to the jury deliberating for a few days. So it was crazy that it didn't stop after that. They kept still pushing it. But whatever. But it's crazy that the DA, knowing everything that happened, and they still brought it up. So another thing that was really crazy is that the mayor of Kenosha, Antaramian, John Martin Antaramian, that's how you say his last name. So he has been the mayor. He was elected in 1992. He served for 16 years. And then he briefly left, and then he was reelected in 2016. And so he's been there for a while, obviously. They have all other family and other positions of power. But he had a relative who was a part of the case. So the lead detective, Benjamin, was the mayor's nephew. So something that was pretty interesting that happened during the trial. It was revealed that Gage Grosskreutz, the man I just showed, they had a warrant for his phone, and they opted not to use it. And they opted not to use it because they stated concerns about Marsy's Law or something like that, something that really wasn't that relevant. And the defense asked, do you normally not execute warrants in situations like this? Which obviously the answer was no. And one of the lawyers who had advised that perhaps they shouldn't look at the phone because of Marsy's Law was Binger, Prosecutor Binger. Doesn't that seem a little sketchy? Seems a lot sketchy. Again, you guys can check out this article that I have on my website. I got a lot of links and videos and stuff associated with all this. So I would want to look into that family and look into sort of these ties and why they decided to take the case in the first place. Because it's questionable. Did they just want to shift focus from the mayor and all these people who failed and say, this is our scapegoat, we're just going to have everybody be angry at this kid, as opposed to asking questions? But the fact that they didn't want to look at his phone when they had a warrant to look at his phone? Well, why wouldn't they want to look at his phone? By the way, the defense released their phone, Kyle's phone, because they said we have nothing to hide. Now, Gage Grosskreutz, his roommate, said he posted on social media that Gage's only regret was not killing Rittenhouse. Now, the defense ended up bringing him to the stand, and he said, well, I just posted it because I was trying to defend my friend. You try to defend your friend by saying he attempted murder? That's how you defend your friend? And of course it didn't make sense, but obviously either he was lying then or he was lying now. And it seems pretty obvious that he's lying on the stand. Why would, and he said that he removed it and stuff, because I know things started to get too intense. And one of the crazy things about that testimony with his roommate said that people started to send him a ton of friends requests after that. So your friend who was at this protest, who's a criminal, tried to kill a kid, and granted, probably a lot of people thought he was just trying to do the right thing, I guess at the time. But you post his only regret was not being able to kill the kid. Mind you, the kid's 17. The kid is 17. The only regret is not killing the kid. And you get in a bunch of friend requests. Our world is so gross. It's so gross. That would be the case. So again, they probably didn't want to check his phone because they were afraid of what they would find. So there's another shady thing. I already mentioned the car lot and the owners lying about Rittenhouse not having permission. So if anyone tries to say, oh, the car, they said that he didn't have permission, no, that they were lying, obviously lying. There's photos, I kid you not, of them being there with them, and video. And then Kyle testified that they brought them over there too. So, I mean, the videos and the photos make it sure that it's not a he said, she said. But it was obviously a dumb lie. And I don't understand why they lie about it. I really don't. Nathan DeBruin, he was a freelance photographer. And he accused the prosecution of trying to change his testimony, of trying to get him to change his police report. Now, he was taking photos of a bunch of stuff, of Rosenbaum, he was the one who took the picture of Kyle cleaning the graffiti. And he didn't know who any of these people were. And so when he was speaking to the DA said, hey, here's a video of Zerminski. And Zerminski is someone else who they didn't get to testify. But he was the one who shot the first shot before Kyle did. And so after they showed a video, they're like, well, do you know who this is? And he's like, Zerminski? And they're like, okay, do you want to amend your police statement now? And so however things work, because the prosecution tried to play it down like it wasn't a big deal, you were just overreacting. However he felt in that moment freaked him out enough to go hire an attorney. And then they tried to discredit him because, like, did you have an interview with a blogger who's critical of the DA's office? So, attack. The character of the people was really like their main thing. So I don't know if they intimidated him or not, but that was his perception. But it is interesting that they did not use Zerminski and have him come on the stand. Now, and you're not supposed to just shoot off into the air like warning shots, like, you know, what comes up, goes up, must come down, like that. But whatever he would get charged with and prosecuted, if they even decided to go through it anyway, they also could have offered him immunity to testify if they wanted, if he was even that concerned about it. It just seemed like they probably just didn't want him to testify, and they pushed off his trial, I think, so there was reasonable reason to not have him testify. So they didn't want him to testify, and they obviously didn't have Jump Kick Man testify either. So that was another shady thing. And then there's all the bad evidence that they submitted. So they also submitted, there was the photo that they had that was blurry, that they tried to say that they enhanced it, and they claimed this proves that Kyle was aiming, I believe that was at Zerminski, which they're like, the judge mentioned like you could have had Zerminski testify so he could be here to speak if Kyle did anything to him, but you didn't have him here, so that's on you. But the defense is like, no, this photo doesn't allege what you say it does. So they're disputing over what's actually going on in the photo. But they switched their tactics to say that Kyle provoked people because he was pointing his weapon. So the image enhancement software that they used is generated by algorithms, like it's trying to figure out what could have been there and sort of fill the space in. So a lot of people use it, but it's really supposed to be more for finding evidence, like maybe it can hint you into some kind of clue or something. But the disclaimer on the blog of it's called Amped 5, the software, they tell you that you're not supposed to use it for evidence. It tells you right there on their blog that you're not supposed to use it for evidence. So the judge actually, he had let them submit the photo, but eventually he said, I probably shouldn't have done that, because if the science isn't there, then all this could get thrown out, obviously, and that you're probably going to get a mistrial. So there was that, and then there was also the drone footage debacle. So the prosecution had some drone footage that they sent to the defense. It turns out the defense's file was very, very tiny, very, very, very tiny, and they had a clear HD definition thing that they got. And so the defense tried to say, the prosecution tried to say that it was because they had an iPhone and the defense had an Android, which I then saw people on Twitter like, they had Androids. like people with Androids are not bad people. What is with you snooty people? I have an Android, and I have had one for a very long time. But they didn't even use, first of all, that's not how that works. And they downloaded it on their laptop, so the Android is irrelevant. And it had a different file name. So here's a little bit of that back and forth about it.
These files. That's not our responsibility. Oh, I didn't write Outlook software.
You know what?
I forwarded.
But wait a minute, I don't know if she had finished.
Every other piece of evidence from the state crime lab in this situation has been provided to us via Dropbox. Dropbox provides an exact forensic copy of what they have. The file title name in this situation should have been exactly the same as the one provided to the state if it was the exact same copy. The file name was nowhere near similar. The one that was provided to the state's crime lab that Attorney Binger gave me a copy of on Saturday had a very long, convoluted title that involves lots of letters and numbers that are the type that are usually associated with files taken from a drone because they indicate a lot of different information like the location of the drone and the time. The file I received originally on Friday the 5th was not labeled that same and was not the same file amount. There's no way that what ADA Krause is saying is true because the file name would not have changed if my computer was compressing anything. It was a different file that we were provided from what was provided to the state, at least for what Attorney Binger gave me on Saturday. They're completely different.
I think we're confusing the issue here.
The poor judge looks so confused, like, technology. She was like, let's get some experts. Everybody, we got to swear you in on the stand. Get some experts to talk about it, the Dropbox and stuff. But yeah, they were really reaching with that, oh, you have an iPhone. And it's like, why are the files named differently? And I think what they sent, the defense was maybe 4 megabytes. It was really, really tiny. So that was another thing that was crazy. And also, now Fox News reported this, that according to a familiar source, so it is an unnamed source, but they claim that Jump Kick Man, who is Maurice Freeland, that he offered to testify to get immunity for some of his crimes like DUI and so on, but the prosecution didn't want to. That's the rumor. But Dropkick Man, it was named that appropriately. If you're unaware, that is the man who was drop kicking Kyle. So it's interesting they didn't want him to testify. And I don't know if they knew who. I'm not positive that the defense didn't know. That's what I'm hearing in reports and everyone's saying. But I don't know if I didn't see them make a motion about, like, you lied to us. I guess they don't need to now because obviously they got the verdict they wanted. But that was the hot news of today, where people were like, they did another thing, the prosecution. That's what people were talking about this morning, Tim Pool and so on. People sending me tweets and messages like, this is what they're talking about today. And then there's also the crazy sort of arguments the prosecution was making. At one point they said that Kyle was a coward because he used a gun and that he didn't use his fists. They're saying you gotta get beat up every now and then. You gotta take a beating. And since they are the prosecutors representing the state, I'm really not sure if that's like the motto that you want to go with. Whether you're a minor or, you know, a woman or a man, like that. Like, can you imagine someone being, like, going against them in another criminal case and be like, and just quote what they said, what Lunchbox and Banger said? Like, oh, you guys said you got to get beat up time to time. Of course, I don't think a reasonable person would do that. But why would a reasonable person say that in the first place? And to think that they wanted this kid not to be armed when his life was clearly in danger? Being chased by a serial rapist? I mean, it was just embarrassing that they would say that. Utterly embarrassing. But, it was crazy. And then they were talking about you don't have the right to really self-defense.
Convince you that Joseph Rosenbaum was going to take that gun and use it on the defendant because they know you can't claim self-defense against an unarmed man like this. You lose the right to self-defense when you're the one who brought the gun, when you're the one creating the danger, when you're the one provoking other people.
So that's why so many people were concerned about their Second Amendment with this case and what kind of precedent this could set, where you're saying that you don't have the right to self-defense if you're the one who provoking people, and the provocation is you simply having the weapon, and you lose your right to self-defense because there's a power discrepancy there. Okay, he was still being chased by a mob, and they're being kicked in the face, hit with a skateboard. Someone else had a gun. Gage had a gun, and you never know who else is carrying stuff in a crowd. There were protesters. Like I showed you guys the other day of people carrying guns, and they told the police that they were provoking them just for being there. So this provocation thing is silly. These people wanted to riot, loot, and burn, and they were mad because someone was there to destroy their fun. That's why they were mad. That's why they're angry. That's really why they were mad at Kyle and why they wanted to chase him, and perhaps if he did not have the gun, he would be dead. Just honestly. These people were crazy, and people did die during these riots in general. The Summer of Love, as the left likes to call it, and we repeat it to mock them. These fiery, most peaceful protests. So people were concerned about them trying to argue that if you, just by the nature of you having a gun, and then you using it, if I feel like my life is in danger and I'm armed and someone's coming at me like that, I'm gonna use it. And that's not me doing premeditation. It's just, if I'm in a situation, I want to live. Self-defense. We have the right to that, and you just don't lose it because you are armed. And when they downplayed Rosenbaum, that was remarkable.
He just happens to stumble into it. So what does he do that night? Oh, let me tell you all the awful things Joseph Rosenbaum did. He tipped over a porta potty that had no one in it. He swung a chain. He lit a metal garbage dumpster on fire. Oh, and there's this empty wooden flatbed trailer that they pulled out in the middle of the road, and they tipped it over to stop some bearcats, and they lit it on fire. Oh, and he said some bad words. He said the N-word.
He said the N-word. It's not a big deal. My gosh. I couldn't believe, why even add that in there? Why put that in, like, I would have just left that out, bro. I would have just left that out. It's like they couldn't hear themselves talk anymore. Like, oh, he just vandalized some property. He just committed a little bit of arson. He just used a racial slur. Not a big deal. And maybe you feel, and I would agree, that's not worth him losing his life, but Kyle's life was worth defending for himself. So when he got chased by the serial rapist and he tried to take his gun, we know what happened. The rest is history, and he was acquitted. But they had some crazy arguments that just didn't make sense. The media's race obsession was insane. I played you what Joe Biden said. A lot of people called him white supremacist and so on. I've played montages of it. Joe Scarborough from like Morning Joe, he said crazy stuff. Other people said crazy stuff. People are still saying crazy stuff. I'm sure Joy Reid will have a lot to say. And they're still referring to this kid as a white supremacist. I'd be careful what they say now. I would be really careful what they say now. But I hope Kyle and his team, whoever he hires to do the civil suit, because he wouldn't, if he does decide to take legal action and sue everyone else to the rest of the time for what happened, he will have a different lawyer because he has a criminal lawyer in this case. But I wonder if there's going to be any civil. There's probably going to be quite a few civil suit people courting him. Probably, but and I showed, for anyone who missed it earlier, and I showed The Intercept what they decided to put. Kyle Rittenhouse cleared of all murder charges after shooting dead 2 Black Lives Matter protesters, and then they say he shot 2 black people. They say he shot 2 black people. It's bad enough people are surrounding with his race anyway. It's about white supremacy and whatnot, and they literally got such a big detail wrong. And I can't say that they didn't do it on purpose. It is egregious and irresponsible. Someone said MSNBC is racist. Yep, they are. Joy Reid says the craziest stuff. The craziest stuff. And even CNN lied about stuff, details, even like the other day. People are... I showed you guys lots of stuff with people talking. People are still lying, spreading misinformation. Nicole Hannah-Jones of the New York Times spreading misinformation about the case, still saying he crossed state lines with a firearm that he illegally obtained. Things that are so false. And by the way, the state lines thing, if you guys are unaware of this, Kyle lived very close to the border, like 20 miles. Like, it wouldn't take him long to cross. His mother lived in Illinois. His father lived in Kenosha. He had family in Kenosha, friends in Kenosha. He worked in Kenosha. That is his community. It was very, very close. Compared to Gage, who the one who survived, he lived further from Kenosha than Kyle did. He lived further than Kyle did. Just a little perspective. Now, he's from Wisconsin, but he's still further than where Kyle was. So, it's crazy. And you know, other people would come from all around the country to go, and Antifa, they would travel to be part of these riots and protests, to burn and loot and so on, keep causing chaos. People would travel across state lines to commit stuff. But trying to frame like Kyle was just a vigilante trying to just start some stuff is just not true. And people are still pushing it. And of course, the craziest thing, I think the last thing I really mentioned, and you guys, again, please check out this article because I do have a lot of sources and stuff. I just didn't have time to like upload everything. But of course, yesterday when it was announced that MSNBC sent a freelance journalist to follow the bus with the jury. And I was really concerned about the jury and how they would react after this sort of coverage and stuff too. But if you haven't seen it, here it is.
Last evening, a person who identified himself as James G. Morrison and who claimed that he was a producer with NBC News, employed for MSNBC, and under the supervision of a person, what's going on? Oh, okay. Under the supervision of someone named Irene Bayan in New York for MSNBC. The police, when they stopped him because he was following at a distance of about a block and went through a red light, pulled him over and inquired of him what was going on, and he gave that information and stated that he had been instructed by Ms. Bayan in New York to follow the jury bus. The matter is under further investigation at this point, and the media has asked questions about it. That's the latest I have. And he was ticketed for violating a traffic control signal. He's not here today from what I'm told. And I have instructed that no one from MSNBC News will be permitted in this building for the duration of this trial. This is a very serious matter, and I don't know what the ultimate truth of it is, but absolutely it would go without much thinking that someone who is following the jury bus, that is a it's extremely serious matter, and will be referred to the proper authorities for further action. Thank you.
Yeah, so MSNBC, it was revealed, or the judge actually said who was behind it. She nuked her social media pages, even the LinkedIn, but that's her. What they did was crazy. And I commend the jury for doing the right thing. I was concerned. I told my mom of the reasons why they had to be concerned, and they were concerned about riots, and she's like, "That's not supposed to matter. Like, they gotta do what's right." My parents are so sweet. They're so sweet. By the way, I just saw this Kamala Harris. Looks like she just got off a plane somewhere and said, "The verdict really speaks for itself. As many of you know, I spent a majority of my career working to make the justice system more equitable. And clearly there's a lot more work to do." I guess she didn't get the Biden memo that we're going to respect the jury. Just more race baiting nonsense, because she's a crap person. I can't stand Kamala Harris. People know she's my least favorite person out of all the Democrats who are running for president. She's the most cynical. She's the biggest liar. She's the most insincere, in my opinion. And I didn't want her to be the president. And today she was for 83 minutes because Biden was put under for a surgery. By the way, Kamala Harris put innocent people away for years. I wish if I had the Tulsi Gabbard slicing her and dicing her up, I would play it right now. But if you need to feel better, if you're a little upset about what she just said, go watch Tulsi just chop her into little pieces with the truth bombs. So to act as if justice wasn't done. See, people talk about justice, but they actually don't care about justice. When people say, no justice, no peace, you guys just threatened somebody. And what justice do you want? Because if you look, not everybody wants to look at the facts of the cases. They want to look at people's skin colors and so on. In this case, again, everyone involved was white. That's what's so crazy. Everybody involved was white. Except for Jump Kick Man. But Kyle missed him. And they didn't even have him, speak at the trial. Kamala Harris is just the absolute worst. And as bad as Biden is, and he's pushing through such radical things, and he's a mouthpiece for a lot of radical things. I hope he can make it through his 4 years, because I just don't want her to be the president longer than 83 minutes, because she like I said, she's the worst. To say something that's irresponsible, and they were irresponsible after the Jacob Blake shooting anyway, and she said, "I'm proud of him," and they went to go visit him and all that other kind of stuff, knowing that he was a criminal. He was there. Talk about people who didn't need to be there. He wasn't supposed to be there because he'd already terrorized that woman. He was armed. He did not comply, which it didn't make sense to me. They're right there carrying the guns pointed right at you. In his case, and he's still dove down or whatever. And it seemed like he was just gonna, I don't know, get his stuff and hurt them, or jump in the car and go away. And they believe that, from the cops' perspective, that there was kids he was able to drive away and kidnap and stuff. So those cops were all acquitted. They were acquitted. But they were still like, oh, he's the victim of this situation, and we're proud of him. It's one thing if you're like, that shouldn't have happened to him. It's another to be like, I'm proud of you. Someone who abuses women? Okay. Okay. I'm sure there's going to be other really crazy things that people are going to be posting throughout the night. I guess I'm glad that I ran into Kamala Harris's dumb comment before the end of the broadcast. But someone just posted lunchbox head in his hand. Jack Posebek said Kyle would be going to jail if not for independent media. I believe that. Because it was the independent media who was on the ground. And a lot of people had cell phones, but there was the freelance photographer who's taking the pictures. There are people who were on the ground with their cameras who testified at the trial. There was one journalist who got paid for an Uber to get there to Kenosha so he could videotape stuff and tell the proper story. So a lot of these people put themselves in harm's way. One of them was like right behind like Rosenbaum when he was shot, and he works for the Daily Caller, and the prosecution tried to discredit them too, to a degree, even though they were like, in the Daily Caller one, that was his witness, so that was weird too. But they also let it be known that those people were writing, and Kyle acted in self-defense. And if not for independent journalism and independent media having all this information, which we've had it from the jump, but a lot of people's perceptions might have been different. It might have still been different. I don't know. Hopefully nothing bad will be going on. I don't see things popping off right now from scrolling really quickly on Twitter. And I pray that nothing bad will happen, and they'll have, that people will just accept it and go home, and there won't be all kinds of crazy nonsense. I really don't understand the mindset of people going out there to riot right now. And not just for the evidence. It's just like you guys, you're gonna riot for black social justice and nobody black was killed. It's so bonkers. So I'm hoping that it's just talk and people at the end of the day will go home. Especially, it's cold outside anyway. Like, there's other factors. People were locked up during the summer and locked up with COVID and stuff. Summer happened, and then people were like, we want shoes. So, and they went out and they did their thing and stole cheesecake. Woman stole cheesecake during one of the riots. I kid you not. I saw the video. I was mortified, and it was funny, but I was mostly mortified. And, you're not stealing Cheesecake Factory products for racial social justice. This is not a thing. Just not a thing. But we'll see what other crazy stuff they'll say. I'll have to keep monitoring that. Eric Swalwell, by the way, was the congressman I was talking about that slept with a Chinese spy. I could not remember his name, but thank you guys in the comments who they had mentioned it some time ago, but I wanted to just repeat that. Well, that is all I got for you guys today. I'm sure we'll maybe still have some things to laugh about the coverage and people going crazy and leftist ears, and maybe I'll have to do a particular specific video about that. But I'm happy with the verdict. I'm pleasantly surprised. I was concerned because it was getting to be a long time. I wanted to believe in the system that is right and true, and it played out, but you still see people pushing for a different narrative, and they're upset. But you know what? Even in the Chauvin case, which, by the way, you can believe that he got what he deserved if you really feel that way, but he didn't get a fair trial. He didn't. There was activist people on the jury panel. They should not have had it at that setting. They should have changed the location. And of course, the media coverage was crazy. And so many people were like, this is for racial justice. And that was not even a part of the case at all. Like, they did not have the evidence to present that it had anything to do with any sort of racial bias. They did not have that sort of evidence. And there are things about it, watching the trial, that I could not even believe. That I'm like, we were just lied to. And I was surprised. I mean, no one was surprised how when they turned around how fast it came around that it was all guilty. However you feel about it, he didn't get a fair trial. But afterwards, you would think people would have taken it as a victory, but there are people, especially on MSNBC, who are like, don't think that just because he got put away that the system is good. So they don't want to compliment the justice system. They don't want to say the system works because their goal is to just tear everything down. That is their goal. That is the goal of critical race theory, which criticizes civil liberties and civil rights movement with people like sort of like fixing things where we are and moving forward. No, they want to look at what we have, say the whole system is bad, and they want to tear it apart because they're Marxist. And that is not gaslighting. That is not that's not an exaggeration. That's not a conspiracy theory. You can look it up, and I promise you can find that in 5 minutes, the connection to critical race theory and Marxism. I promise you can. I promise you can. But these people ultimately want to destroy America. What is great about America? And they say that whiteness is bad and that believing your intent matters, or that you want to protect property or your entitlements, that those things are associated with whiteness and privilege. And Don Lemon can get up on his network and say this idea that you can protect your street and your home and your property and your country. My country, protecting my country is an entitled attitude. And he's like, I call the police if I have trouble. That's an entitled attitude, Don Lemon. Believing that you are just so cushy and comfortable that you can sit in your house and if something happens to you, that you have the police you can call them up and they'll be right there. That is a privilege. There's some places in America where stuff is so bad the police won't go. Or the police were like, we had enough of you guys. You don't even appreciate us. We're out. We're gone. Or there's places that's very rural where police aren't going to get there in 5 minutes or less. And sometimes you don't even have 5 minutes. So we're talking about entitlements. The entitlement are these champagne socialists who push a failed ideology to get, score some kind of political points. Because they don't want to live in the world that they preach about. Ben and Jerry's, like the people who own that ice cream, they're straight up commies, I guess, or socialists, whatever. They still selling that expensive ice cream. They must believe in capitalism to a degree. That is some high price ice cream. Some of their flavors is the bomb though. But I haven't had any while, and I don't want to support them. So I guess I will have to live without having the Cinnabon ice cream, which was like top tier. But I don't want to support people like that. I don't want to support people like that. But I'm going to have to call it a night. But thank you guys all for watching. Please go to blacktnews.com. Again, I did post a donation link in the comments if you guys are interested and be so inclined. If you enjoy what I do here, please consider supporting blacktnews.com. And you go to blacktnews.com/donate. Share different articles, share different videos, share different, posts and so on. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Black Tea News, and on Twitter it is at True Black Tea. Consider looking at different products that I have in the store. You guys can get things like my goat hoodie. You guys can get different shirts like the Denounce White Supremacy, Defeat Joe Biden shirt. This one right here with the list of his racist stuff on the back, since they want to call Kyle and other people white supremacists, remind them who they are. But this is the goat hoodie. I love that. It's getting cold outside, so make sure that I got it in different colors. You pick that up. You can pick some stuff up for people for Christmas and stuff. I'm not the victim you're looking for. That's a cool shirt as well. I do also have books as well. If you go on, you can go to blacktnews.com, and under merchandise there is a link to my website. Ninja does publishing, but this is a faith book that I did after like the coronavirus stuff. People were so freaking out about the pandemic that I'm like, these people are driving me crazy. I got to write something. So God hasn't given us a spirit of fear, but he's given one of power, love, and a sound mind. So it just kind of goes through why you shouldn't just fear your own shadows. Have faith and be bold and strong. I also have historical fiction fantasy stuff that I've written. I also have contemporary fantasy, paranormal romance, all kinds of other stuff. But you guys should check that out. And if you have little ones, if you have, well, I'm working on a chapter book, a picture book. I don't know if it'll be done by Christmas, but Super Kid has a lot of great conservative type family values. If you want to pick that up for your kids, it's a middle grade chapter book. I've had kids as young as 6 pick it up. If they're good readers, they can get through it. But it's really more like I guess 8 to 12 is kind of like, I guess, the common ages. But I've had people who love to read who are 6 and have read in it a day, which is like the best compliment I can have. But I have heard on the streets that it's epic. So, and those are the kids that are telling me. It's not just my bias. That's what the children have told me. So you guys can check out the different stuff that I have on my website on blacktnews.com, and also you can visit ninjadustpublishing.com. That's my website with my books, and I have book trailers and stuff and all kinds of stuff. So please consider supporting me in my endeavors, and I appreciate you guys so much taking the time. I know this is an extended show, and I was like, there's so much to talk about. I can't just like fit it all into an hour and stuff. So I had a little bit more time to talk to you guys anyway. And again, I'm happy. I'm assuming you guys are happy. But we got a lot of work to do because the media really tried to ruin this kid's life. And this will not be the end of it. They suffered a major loss. That's why they're so angry and they can't look at the facts. And they still have to blame the system because the system is what they want to destroy. If the system was corrupt and he was guilty, they would still probably complain about the system, but they would take that as a win, knowing that they have so much power that they can override the evidence. So I'm glad that we pushed them back today, but there's always tomorrow. So again, consider supporting Black Teen News, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night at 7:30 for Let's TikTok About It. I'll be reviewing TikTok videos, but otherwise, Black Teen News will resume on Monday. You guys have a great weekend. I'm happy. God bless.